Okay guys, today we're going to do a quick tune-up on the John Deere 4200. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get it nice and cleaned off. So I'm just going to use a hose with a spray nozzle on there. We're going to get some of this dirt and crap off of it, make sure we get the grease fittings around the zerts real good. So that way those are all set and that we can actually see we're not pushing more dirt into there. Okay? So one thing I don't like to do is I don't like to put on a I don't like to use a power washer for it because it can damage the paint on them, and it's just a little bit too much force for it for some of those lines and stuff. So generally speaking, I like to just hose it off with the hose and a little flowering spray nozzle on there. You can see up here I tilted the bucket forward, make sure we're tipping the water out of it. We're just going to get it nice and clean real quick, and then we'll go forward. We're going to change the oil, we're going to top up the hydraulic fluid, change the hydraulic filter on there, and then we're going to change out the air filters. And so we've got a little bit to do today, so we'll get this nice and cleaned up and get it ready. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and get 11/16 inch wrench and our oil container. Okay, we get everything opened up on here, and we're gonna go ahead and remove our oil, our oil drain valve there at the bottom of the tractor. Okay, so on this particular tractor, it's right here on the side of the engine. We've got a filter wrench, so I'm not sure we're gonna need it. Yeah, I guess we will. But one thing that I should mention I did before I came out here, before I started the camera, is I checked all of our filters and went by and checked the numbers on them and made sure that we got the right parts and that everything that we had was going to work for it. So this oil is still draining out underneath there, but we're just going to slide this over just a little bit. The drain pan, I know you guys can't see it. I'm going to slide it over so it's underneath both the hole where the oil's coming out as well as here, so that way we're not getting it all over the place. Bring it that just shouldn't be too tight, just a little turn. All right, and there we go. Okay, so we got all our oil cleaned out. We were actually pretty dirty. We bought the tractor used. I used it pretty much this whole summer, and then now we're changing it. I should have done it right when I first bought it. Looks like he hadn't done it in a while. That's okay though. We don't really have any oil leaks anywhere, so we're holding all the oil in where we need to be. Okay, now we'll go ahead and throw our new one on. As soon as we're done with this, we're gonna mark the hours and everything on our logbook. So we can mark it on the filter. These are black filters, so it doesn't really work that well. I think I have a paint marker inside actually. We'll grab that. And we're gonna go ahead and mark the hours and today's date of when we change the oil. Now, I don't mark the oil viscosity. I know some people do, but to me it's kind of a moot point. So I know what the viscosity is and what it needs to be. So now, a lot of people like to take a little bit of oil and rub it around the seal to make sure that seal gets good contact. I know there's going to be some people cringing at this, that I'm using used oil to do that with. And the thing about it is that it doesn't really matter that much. And the reason being is because that little bit of used oil, there's already much more than that in the actual oil pan itself. So that's just a moot point that little amount of oil would actually cause it to be contaminated oil then, and it's ridiculous. All right, hand tight, plus about a quarter of a turn. Just want it to be tight enough that I can't undo it real easy by hand. Okay, and we're good to go. We got the oil filter on. I'm going to jump underneath there, put the bolt back in. Actually, here, let's grab that, and we'll go ahead and use this rag, get that all cleaned off. Okay, it's kind of hard to do this when we get the camera underneath here, but I wanted to actually be able to show some of you guys, especially some of you that don't really know, because we had some requests for this type of video, and if you don't know where this is, it can be a little nerve-wracking to start pulling bolts off when you don't know. But this bolt is right here under the engine block. And it'll be a pretty visible pan underneath there that you'll see bolted up around the engine block. And that's where it is. That's where it's going to be on just about every vehicle. Some of them may be on the side. I know, like my riding lawnmower, it's on the side. But this one's right here, as with most of them. And we want to get that tightened, but we don't want it so tight that we can't get it off next time like we were stuck with this time. So it should be tight enough that I need a wrench to get it off, but not so tight that I'm going to strip the threads or round the bolt. Otherwise, we're in a little bit of we're going to have a bigger issue. We'll get rid of our old oil filter, dispose of that properly. Shut up! They come inside the shop here, and our shop is a mess because of this move that we're doing. But they come inside the shop, and then they get mad when I'm working in here. Mind-boggling. So we've got a hen that's in here that's going crazy. Okay, so right here we got some Rotella Shell 15W40 heavy-duty diesel engine oil. Okay. Oil is the lifeblood of your vehicle, guys. Buy the nicest that you can possibly get. Don't, that's not the thing to skimp on. Okay, so according to John Deere, the 4200 should take 3.8 liters. So this is 3.78, so it should take this exactly and be completely full. So we'll see how good that is, how accurate John Deere is. All right. So we'll take our funnel, make sure we don't have any dust or anything on there. Get that nice and clean. Put our little screen in the bottom. That screen in here, it does take a little bit to drain through, so it's going to take us just a minute to pour this. Guys, the screens are definitely worth it. They catch anything. If you have dirt or a leaf blows off a tree and falls in, they can catch that stuff before it falls in there. I started using them after I had a leaf blow off a tree and fall in my fuel tank on my tractor, or on my my lawnmower, and then it would block up the fuel line, and it was a pain to get out. I had to drop the tank, spray out the tank. It was a nightmare to get that out of there. So now I like to use these screens when I can, just because they kind of keep that from happening. I guess while we're here, we'll go ahead and talk about the air filter. The air filter is right here inside the engine compartment, so right where my finger's pointing. And that air filter, we're gonna actually change it out, and we're waiting on it to come right now. It's in the mail, getting shipped to us right now. But there's actually two air filters in there. There's an inner and the outer air filter, and some people clean them off. I had a friend of mine that was a mechanic one time, and he told me never to clean them off, just to replace them. And he said when you try to blow them, you end up blowing those particles, those dust particles, further in there, and they'll just lodge inside the air filter. They dirty up the air filter, and they just make it less efficient. And he said for the price of an air filter, there's no sense trying to clean them. And he said it's the same principle as if you were to try to wash out your oil filter. You'll get a lot of the oil and the particles out, but there'll still be a bunch in there. So he said go ahead and just replace them. Ever since then, that's what I've always done, even on my vehicles with my nicer K&N air filters. I just go ahead and replace them all. I get a little bit more life out of the K&N ones, but it's just not worth it. The next thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and install our new fuel filter, and we'll get that put in. So let's drop you down here. Let's go ahead and turn our switch here, shut our fuel off. I don't know if I can get it to. All right. Then pull off our old filter. Set that over here to be thrown away. We're gonna leave a little canister here. Everything's set up because that's got our fuel in it. Go ahead and slide our new filter on. Grab our old filter. Go ahead and replace that O-ring on there. All right. Guys, tractors are dirty things. So we want to try to keep things as clean as we can, just to make sure we're getting our longevity. And guys, when you're doing all this, some of these are steel going onto aluminum, or plastic going into steel or whatever, so it's really easy to get all these fittings, you know, your hydraulic valves and drain valves and everything, to get them cross-threaded. So be really careful about that. Make sure you're not getting anything cross-threaded. All right, just about as tight as we had it earlier. Get that all cleaned. And we'll turn our fuel lever again. Now, depending on your vehicle, some vehicles will, or depending on your tractor, so every tractor is a little bit different, but this one is auto priming. We'll go check the transmission fluid while whoops, let me hold that still while I talk. We'll go check transmission fluid while we let that oil settle in there before we check our oil level. Our transmission fluid's at the back of the tractor. We'll get ourselves a nice clean funnel. Let's just go ahead and slide that forward there. There we go. Now, down here at the bottom is your little sight valve, and we want to be about halfway on that. Depends on your tractor. Some of them have a dipstick, some of them have a little sight bubble. Depends on what you got. We're just going to add just a little bit. Okay, so we're giving that time to settle down there. It's important to remember that oil expands a little bit as it warms up, so we don't want to add too much at any one time. We just want to let this get to about halfway on that sight level. Same sort of thing here, guys. Make sure that everything is staying really clean. Now, while we're doing this, we'll go ahead and move around to the front over here. And we're going to check our differential, our front differential. We actually don't look too bad there. Sitting pretty good, so don't really need to add anything there. Everything looks clean. All right. So next time we do this, we're going to change the front differential fluid. We're also going to change the hydraulic fluid, and we're going to change the hydraulic filter. Before that happens, we'll pop the air filter in there as soon as that comes. And like I said, that's right here in this little canister. That's real easy. Actually, I'll zoom in here and I'll show you how to do that real quick, just for those of you that don't know. When we get the new one, we'll come in here, pull this out, and all that'll happen is we'll pull this old one out, put the new one in. That's really easy, guys. Last thing we're going to do before we fire it up and check all of our levels is we're going to take our grease gun around and we're going to check all of our grease zerks. The way we're going to do this, we're going to clean it off here, clean off our gun, make sure we don't get any dirt in there. Just come over the top of it, and we're going to pump it until we see it come out. There we go. Okay. Some people find it hard to find where your grease zerks are at, and the easiest way to know where they're at is every joint is going to have one. So you need to grease the joints. And if you can't get it in, it means you got a bad grease zerk. You just need to pop it off and replace it. So I got one that's bad right here that needs to be replaced. There's a question about how much grease to put in. On the metal joints, I always put it in. Well, all the joints are metal. On any of them without a rubber boot, I put it in until I see it come out, and hopefully that'll push dirt and water out of there as well. On the metal, or on the ones that have a boot, you gotta be careful you don't blow the boot out. If you put too many, I usually put 2, that ended up being too many on one of these. I actually blew one of the boots out, so I'm gonna have to replace that out. So we'll do, like I said, part 2 of the tractor tune-up here coming up. This is just kind of our part 1, get y'all started. All we're gonna do now is we're gonna fire it up, check all our fluid levels, make sure we got everything where we need it, let it get up to operating temperature, get everything kind of worn in a little bit, use the bloater just a minute, and let everything get good and warm with it. Then we'll park it away, it'll be good to go. And anyways, if y'all like this type of stuff, please subscribe to the channel, like us on Facebook if you haven't done so. Thanks again for watching, really appreciate it.